Good evening, everyone. R. Jerome Harris here from apophatic.com, and I want to weigh in and give you my thoughts on a recent event where two men in Georgia killed a black man who was jogging. And I'm going to say allegedly pursued this man and shot him down in cold blood because he allegedly resisted their commands to stop. Now, neither one of these men are law enforcement officers, but we'll get into that in a few moments. I've written on my website, and I've stated in many videos, that I believe that the most dangerous entity on the planet today is this brand of Christianity that has risen up. It is aggressive, it is mentally dysfunctional, and it's this crazy thinking. Now, one can look at the history of Christianity, and Christianity does not have its origins with the person the world knows as Jesus Christ. No. The expression Christianity wasn't used back in those days when the Master walked the earth, and neither was the expression Christian used among his disciples. In fact, in this book called the Bible, you'll find the expression Christian and Christians combined mentioned two, maybe up to three times, depending on the Bible translation that you read. And you'll find in all instances that it wasn't used by those who were Christ followers. We can also look at the history of Christianity, as I mentioned, and it has been a very dangerous, warlike, wolf-like, rather than lamb-like history. One can go back and look at the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, the Salem witch hunts, and all of those involved murder, killings. Look at the transatlantic slave trade. How heinous is that? We can look at the more than 6 million Jews in the Nazi concentration camps. Hitler, if you read his book Mein Kampf, claimed that he was a Christian, and that is a Catholic, and they consider themselves Christians, and he felt that it was his duty to kill Jews because Jews killed his Lord. And Hitler commonly consulted with Catholic priests, so Hitler considered himself a Catholic. We can look at the world wars, and within those world wars, Christianity and its clergy has had its hands in those wars, even sanctioning and blessing those wars and blessing the troops when they engage in war and praying to God for victory against the enemy. And we see that to this day. In the conflicts of today, Christianity has its hands in it, in everything. Now here we have on this website, the headlines here is social media group supports men who shot and killed unarmed jogger. Now many of you have seen the faces of these two men if you've been keeping up with the news. These are the McMichaels. We have the father on the right, his name is Greg, and the son on the father on the left, whose name is Greg, and the son on the right, his name is Travis. Now, when I went through this article, I couldn't help but think how dysfunctional the thinking of many who claim that they're Christ followers are. Now, you decide for yourself. You can rationalize this all you want. But from my viewpoint, I have to view this from the standpoint of being a follower of Christ and not just trying to rationalize bad behavior, but walking as he walked and thinking as he thought. After going through this article, ask yourself, would the person that many of you claim that you follow have this same mentality? Now, this article was written on May the 8th. Today is May the 9th. And so to start here, outrage spreads like wildfire across the country over the shooting death of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. Support is also growing for the men who killed him. Arbery was killed February 23rd. This was almost 2 months ago. And these men were walking around free, just outside the port city of Brunswick. The men who pursued him in a pickup truck, father and son, Gregory and Travis McMichael, told police they believed Arbery was a burglar. So all one has to have is a belief, and that justifies stopping, detaining another person. Whether you're black, white, yellow, red, if you're an American, you're an American. And no other American has a right to detain or stop anyone because you believe that person to be a burglar. And let's not play with words here. We'll know what this is about. Now, the death investigation of Ahmaud Arbery has been passed through 3 district attorneys. This was obviously a cover-up. In the 2.5 months since the man was shot and killed while jogging through Glenn County neighborhood on the afternoon of February 23rd. During that time, the details of the case were mostly under the radar of public interest until outrage erupted when a video was released showing Arbery's killing. So if no video was taken, odds are that these 2 men would still be walking around free. Since then, a majority of support surfaced for Arbery's family, but thousands are banding together for the McMichaels. Wow. Let's see who these people are. The father and son were arrested Thursday, 2 days into the GBI's investigation, that's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, of the killing. Recently, the group, here we go, Christians Against Google, changed their Facebook page name to Justice for Gregory and Travis McMichael. So this is a Christian group. Now, wait a minute. I recall back in several years ago in South Carolina, I believe it was in Charleston, a young white man walked into a church, and actually he was invited into a Bible group there. So the churchgoers, and these are all black churchgoers, were polite to him and they were accommodating. He walks in, he guns them all down in cold-blooded murder. When the police show up, they take him to a McDonald's or a Burger King, they feed him, and then they take him to jail. Where was this group right here, this Christians Against Google, in support of those dead black folks and their families? So it appears to me that these Christian groups, I'm not saying all of them, but this one in particular, they're very selective as to who they support. Next paragraph. An about section on the group page reads, now check this out. This Christian group here, Christians Against Google, they say these 2 God-fearing men, they're toting around guns. They're nothing lamb-like. They're more like a pack of wolves pursuing an individual who's minding his own business out for an evening jog. And because they believe that he was involved in a burglary, What burglar is going to be out running around jogging in broad daylight if he just burglarized the house? And where is he carrying all the goods that he burglarized? Hmm? But they say here that these two God-fearing men were only trying to protect their neighborhood. From who? A black man? A threatening black man? That could have been me. That could have been one of my nephews, one other relative or a friend who happens to be black. This area has had a string of break-ins, and this man fit the description. Well, if you look at me, I fit the description too, and did not comply with simple commands. Wait a minute. Comply with whose simple commands? What gives any person? Now, if you're a white person, if you think this, then you've got some work to do. Why is it that black folks are supposed to, that white folks think that black folks are supposed to stand at attention or dress right dress or be at ease whenever you bark a command? I've been in that kind of a situation as an adult not too long ago, as a foreign service officer, a person of high rank, a diplomat, and I happen to work for a white guy who I know didn't treat white colleagues who are also foreign service officer like that. But he felt that it was okay for him to bark commands at me when he really had no business barking, keyword, commands at me. With myself, I was sent there with lots of responsibility, just as he was. I had more people under my supervision than he had. But he just felt that it was his place to treat me as if whenever he spoke a word, I'm supposed to like stand up and step and fetch it and run, and it's like, you're not moving fast enough, you're not jumping high enough. What is this thing that states here that this man fit the description and did not comply with simple commands? Wait a minute. This father and son, who are they? What gives them the right to bark or give simple commands to anyone, whether you're white, black, red, yellow, or whatever? You see, this is very concerning here. And then this group goes on to say, our hearts go out to the McMichael family in their time of need, amen. But there's no, see, they're walking around alive. But you've got a dead man here, Mr. Arbery. You see, they don't say that about him. See, they don't say our hearts go out to Arbery and his family. See how sick and twisted that is? And there are many who are Christians, and I'm saying that all of you are bad persons. I know better than that. But I find that there's a certain mental dysfunction that is interwoven within this religious system called Christianity. It has an ability to rationalize everything. And you would think that they would be, their hearts would go out to anyone where there's loss of life and pain and hurt. But no, their hearts go out to the McMichael family in their time of need, and then they're going to say amen. So is this a prayer? Are they praying to God and asking God to show them favor, but no one else? Wow. This is extremely concerning. Now here's the man right here, Mr. Arbery, who was killed. And what this really equated to was a lynching. I'm going to tell you something. As an American and a person who sacrificed his life sincerely, I volunteered to go into the military out of high school. I wasn't a draft dodger. The draft was going on during the time when, at the time when I joined the military. And because I felt that I could make an impact, I could do some good. I don't regret joining the military. It was a rough road in the beginning because I'd encountered individuals like these two here and many others who were very hateful towards black folks in the military. And I served 20 years. See, that was a sacrifice I made for all Americans in defense of the Constitution of the United States of America. And after that, I put in over 22 years as a federal employee. 6 to 7 years of that was as a foreign service officer, a diplomat. So combined, I've put in over 42 years of service to this country. And for what? For this? Where I can't walk through a public park, a national park, or jog through any neighborhood in America. Any neighborhood. These people, you don't own neighborhoods. Who do you think you are? I am an American. I'm free to go anywhere, live anywhere I choose in America. You have no right to prevent me because of the color of my skin. You have no right to give me commands because you think or you believe that I committed a crime. It seems like the only crime I've committed in the minds of many white folks, not all, but many, is simply being black. The most dangerous place for a black man to exist in America, it appears, is in the imagination of white people. Yes, imagination. These men believed that this man who was minding his business, jogging, committed a crime. So they took it upon themselves to be the law. Now my thinking is, let me play devil's advocate here. If Mr. Arbery committed a crime, let's say if, why not call the police? You have no right to put your hands on him. And what he did was he simply was defending himself. He doesn't know who you are. You've got a gun. What would you do if you were in his shoes? Let's turn this around. Suppose this was a white guy running through, say, a black neighborhood, and two black men, father and son, is following this white guy, and they've got guns, and they bark out to him, "Stop." That white man would also have the right to defend himself if he sees two individuals with guns, defending himself either by running away or if he was carrying a weapon to do whatever he had to do to stop the threat. You see my point? It can't be a thing where you got white folks running around being a law to themselves. What is that? Where does that come from? Is this what America is? And I venture to say yes, that America is like that. Just the other day, I was out at a park. The park's open here between 12 noon to 6 p.m. because we are still under a stay-at-home order, but they've opened the parks up a little bit. And I was out taking an afternoon walk, minding my business, bothering no one. The park was very sparsely populated. And there were two older white women walking together, and as I got out of my vehicle, they stopped dead in their tracks. And they were just staring at me as I'm walking in the opposite direction away from them. But they're just staring at me like I'm some type of a threat. See, it's they didn't see a person. What they saw was a skin color. I can give you another example. And I think I mentioned this once in a video before. I belong to a congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses for about 15 years in one city. And met many persons within that congregation, my former brethren, and I was a baptized witness. And within the congregational meetings, they knew me and I knew them. We all knew each other by Brother Harris and Sister Smith and so forth. And this congregation was 60% white, 40% black. And while within the congregation, everyone got along and everyone knew each other. We spent time out in field service together, many of us. But a strange dynamic occurs when you're not inside the Kingdom Hall and you're out in public. So here I am, I'm in a grocery store, and I'm walking down an aisle, and coming in the other direction towards me was one of the sisters in their congregation who I've spoken to. We've spoken many times before. She's a married sister. Her husband was the presiding overseer. And she looked up in my direction, and I thought she recognized me, but apparently not, because she didn't acknowledge me. So as we got closer, because she's coming towards me and I'm going towards her as we're working our way up and down the aisle here, I say to her, how are you doing, sister so-and-so? And she looked at me as if she didn't recognize me. Maybe because I wasn't wearing a suit. But she looked at me like, almost like, who are you? And I said, Brother Harris. Oh, Brother Harris, how are you? I'm like, wow. So my point here is that initially, when many white folks look at you, I'm not saying all of you, I'm saying many, it's the initial visual. When they look at a black person, they see the color, they see the skin color. They don't see the person first. Now, I'm very sure that there are white folks listening to this video, and you're going to disagree. That's okay. I can only tell you what I have lived. You haven't lived it, so how could you know that? You might not be like that as an individual, but that doesn't mean because you haven't experienced it that it does not exist. What has occurred here with these two men? Maybe they are believers in God, but there's something wrong with that belief. They're carrying around guns. And the son didn't hesitate to discharge his weapon. And it wasn't with a view to wound, but to kill. What at that moment, what sparked that rage? Because a black man was defending himself. That black man, Arbery, was not the aggressor here. You guys were the aggressor. And you have this Christian group here who say that these two men were only trying to protect their neighborhood. Wow. So now neighborhoods are off limits to Americans? I thought America was the land of the free, and that an American can go anywhere that he chooses or she chooses. So suppose if you have people like this who take it upon themselves to make it off limits for a person to go to a certain park, say in their neighborhood or near their neighborhood. Many of you may have seen these videos on YouTube where there's a black man, for example, who lived in an apartment complex, and a white woman is standing outside the door, preventing him from going inside of his apartment building. Or a black college student who's sitting out in the college lobby studying, and she dozes off and goes to sleep, and some white person who can't mind her business goes over to her and starts giving her the 20th degree about why is she there. I mean, what is that? Or black folks out in the park mind their business like we do, and some white woman calls the police on them. Where does this come from? It is disrespectful for anyone to do something like that. And for those of you who say that you're Christians, what is wrong with you? I would think that the one that you claim that you follow would be ashamed of you, because you really make him look bad. You might as well put a gun in his hand too, because you paint a picture of him. And what we have is a false Christ. That's why these folks can do what they do and do it, and they massage their conscience, because what they've done, they've created a Christ. They've created their own Jesus. The Jesus, the Christ, that the true one. See, they don't know him. So what they've done, they've created their own. And they use this to create divisions, because they're not shedding a tear for the victim here. See, what they're doing here, they're making the Jesus that they've created, this false one that comes in their image, they're making him into a bigot and a racist and a white supremacist. And you have those who claim that they are the friends of Christ, but really present themselves as his worst enemy. They're not making it attractive for persons to join that particular religious group. I wouldn't, if I saw something like this or read stuff like this right here in this paragraph down here. That's really disturbing, because it's like what they're saying here, and you can't mince this around. They're saying that it's okay to kill someone who's black, or even, let's take this a step further, someone who is not, who they deem is not God-fearing. So if they're not with us, they're against us, and therefore they deserve what they get. That's the kind of God and Christ that they believe in? Apparently so. But I say again, it is a God that they've created. It's their golden calf. And it is the Christ that they've created. They're not the God. They're not the. This is not the true God and the true Christ. They've created their own, so that they can commit these types of heinous crimes, engage in war and conflict, and massage their conscience and say things like, God bless America. Oh, and no one else. It is divisive. It is dysfunctional. It is sick. And personally, I'll listen to persons who are Christians, and myself, I used to be one of them. I reject that expression, because Jesus never told his disciples to be called by that expression. And especially this made-up brand of Christianity that appears to be painted a certain color, and then it's this pretense at being loving, but when it's really deadly. It's like you can have a beautiful furry pet, but its bite is deadly. Its venom is deadly. It it looks lamb-like, but its actions and its deeds and its words are like that of a dragon. What do these men deserve? They deserve to be treated fairly, like all Americans. That's the law. And they should be prosecuted according to the law, as any American would be. That woman whose name is called Justice, the one that we see with two balanced scales in each arm, each hand, and her eyes are blindfolded. The blindfolds stay on, the scales remain balanced. They should be given a fair trial, treated fairly, and judged accordingly. You would think that these God-fearing men would be okay with that. Or are they to be given special treatment because they're God-fearing men? How do you know that the man who died, Mr. Arbery, is not God-fearing? I am. I'm a very God-fearing man. So if I'm jogging down a particular neighborhood in America and I get gunned down because I refuse to stop because someone says stop, someone that I don't know, who's not wearing a badge, because of their skin color they think gives them the right to issue a command for me to stop, and I don't, why not come into my house and tell me how to rearrange my furniture because you don't like the way it's rearranged or the way it's arranged? Or you come in and go into my refrigerator and start eating up my food because you feel that you're privileged to do so because of the color of your skin. And for you, this Christian group, Christians Against Google, Christians Against, what is this? Christians Against. Wow, it's like you're more against stuff than you are for stuff. You make everything a fight, a struggle. And I say shame on you for, see, people say, well, our Jerome, why do you speak about race all the time? This is why. It's stuff like this. As a black man, I've seen it all my life. I don't particularly like talking about these things. But it's very difficult for me for someone to talk to me about God and about Jesus, about their God and Jesus, when what they're putting in front of me are images of a white God and a white Jesus and white angels and a white Adam and Eve, white Noah, white Moses, and others. And then say, well, accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and then you read about stuff like this. Why are those individuals being fashioned in the likeness of a particular race among the human family? None of you were around when Christ walked the earth, so how do you know that's what he looked like? And why are you so aggressive in pushing those images upon the world? So when persons say to me, you talk about this all the time, I'm going to continue to talk about it because those things need to be called out. People need to pause and stop and think about that and ask the questions as to why is that the case? What is called Christianity today is not from God and Christ. It is not from above. It comes from below. It is a counterfeit. Groups like this Christians Against Google, the heinous history of what is called Christianity, the murderous and deadly history, this sick and warped dysfunctional mentality, these emotionally unstable persons who are so self-righteous. They speak of love, but they don't practice it. See? That's hypocritical. And you claim you love God. Let me read something here. I'm going to take you over to Bible Gateway. And let's go to 1 John chapter 4. And I'm going to take you down here to 1 John chapter 4, verse 20. Listen to this very carefully here. It says, whoever claims to love God, yet hates a brother or a sister, is a liar. And this isn't referring to a fleshly brother and sister. We're all brothers and sisters because we're all created by God. One is not a brother and sister because some person decides who they are. God decides who they are. We're all related. We all come from Him. Because of Him, we have life. And it goes on to say here, for whoever does not love their brother and sister, whom they have seen, cannot love God, whom they have not seen. And He has given us this command: anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister. So, what has occurred here? If these are God-fearing men, was the crime that they committed an act of love towards this person who was minding his business? This group here, Christians Against Google, was this statement that they made right here, which excludes Mr. Arbery. Was that an act of love? So based on what's written here at 1 John chapter 4, verse 20 and 21, those persons are liars. They're hypocrites. There's no way they can love God because they hate their brother. This is R. Jerome Harris from ebphatic.com. Thank you for listening.